What if Ned Stark was killed at the Tower of Joy? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Eddard Stark glares up at Sir Arthur, watching Ethan Glover fall, leaving him alone. All around them, the bodies of the kingsguard and Ned's companions lay dead or dying. The two men circle each other, taking a moment to catch their breath before coming at each other again. Sir Arthur Dayne, the Sword of the Morning, moves like a storm given form, leaving the Lord of Winterfell barely able to even see his sword. Yet the sound of their blades rings across the entire landscape. Sweat beads on Ned's brow, mixing with the dust of the red Dornish earth as the whole world melts away, and the only thing he can think of is just focusing on staying alive. His breath comes ragged, and his arms burn, but he refuses to yield. He raises his sword and parries the next attack and tries to push him back, though the Sword of Morning is already slipping aside. When they cross swords again, he notices Howland Reed in the corner of his eye. He circles the battle, spear clutched tightly. Ned raises his blade and lunges, putting all his strength into a desperate strike. Dawn intercepts the sword mid-swing, twisting the blade from Ned's grip and sending it falling into the sand. Howland Reed takes the chance and rushes forward, jabbing his spear at the knight's back. The range was so close that it should be impossible to avoid, and yet somehow Sir Arthur does. He moves like a dancer, spinning from the attack. Ned tries to strike at him again in a downward slash, but Sir Arthur ducks underneath and goes for a low slash. The sword takes Ned at the waist. His breath catches. Eyes widening as pain blooms through his body. His knees buckle, blood spilling onto the earth. Sir Arthur catches him, lowering him gently to the ground, and slits his throat. A sharp cry rings out behind them. Howland Reed surges forward, blade flashing, but Sir Arthur catches it and twists it aside.
There are things beyond your understanding at work, Howland Reed.
Howland freezes, his dagger inches from Arthur's back, his hand trembling. The fire in his eyes falter as Arthur turns, his expression unreadable, but the Sword of Morning catches something in his eyes. Perhaps understanding.
Perhaps it isn't. You don't know what you're talking about, don't I? I can see the power in your eyes. You know of prophecies too, Crannogman. Dreams of the future. He didn't have to die, Dayne. No, he didn't. But the guilt is what I shall bear for the rest of my days. But you see it too. The world is shifting. The storm is coming. I do. Then you must live to see it.
Howland staggers back, chest heaving. Arthur watches him for a moment longer, then rises. Dawn dripping with the blood of the Warden of the North. The tower doors creak open behind him, and the cries of a newborn echo across the battlefield. Arthur has Howland's injuries treated by the maester as he talks to Lyanna, telling him of what happened. The woman, already weak from her pregnancy, only grows more pained as the news breaks her heart. She pleads with Arthur, telling him to care for the boy, which he agrees. As the last of the strength leaves her, the Sword of the Morning stands vigil before both Starks, before gathering their bones and returning them to Winterfell. It is the least he can do. When he arrives at the Stark seat, he's greeted by the sight of young Catelyn Tully, and with her, a newborn son, one only slightly younger than Lyanna's child. He would have been Jaehaerys' cousin, but now he is just a stranger. Catelyn accepts the sword in her husband's bones. Her voice breaks as she holds both tightly. In less than a year, she had lost 2 husbands and is now raising an orphan. Sir Arthur tries to offer some kind words of sympathy, but she has none of it.
You have done a courtesy few would have considered, sir. But you can forgive me if I cannot offer you a similar service to the man who's made my son an orphan.
Sir Arthur bows his head as he departs, riding back to Starfall, where he finds Eddard Dayne tending to Jaehaerys. His dear sister knew all about the plan and who this boy truly was, and offered her help in whatever way she could. Years pass, and under the blazing Dornish sun, Sir Arthur Dayne trains Jaehaerys in the ways of knighthood. The boy grows strong, his movements sharp and precise under his mentor's watchful eye. They train with swords at dawn, ride through the dunes at midday, and sit beneath the stars at night. where Arthur tells him the stories of his father and mother.
There will be no secrets. Your father was Rhaegar Targaryen, and your mother was Lyanna Stark. And the man I killed, Eddard Stark, was her brother. He came for her, believing he was saving her. He died with that belief, by my hand.
Jaehaerys listens intently, absorbing every word. He does not rage or cry. He merely nods, the fire in his violet eyes burning ever brighter. Arthur Dayne, who has become a mother to him, watches from a distance, knowing that the boy she loves will one day carry a burden heavier than any sword. She cares for him, ensuring that while Sir Arthur trains him to be a knight, she allows him to spend time with boys his age, traveling to town to talk with normal people, and feel like a child. For most of his life he remains hidden in Starfall, training alongside the children of House Dayne, who have all sworn secrecy of this plan. Thankfully, they do not have to worry about Robert, since, after the rebellion, Dorne largely isolates themselves, so the royal family rarely pays attention to them. To ensure this, Lady Ashara takes control of the house, and Jaehaerys is claimed as her bastard. Sir Arthur simply disguises himself as a household knight, and returns Dawn to the house. As far as the world is concerned, he died in the Tower of Joy, a story confirmed by Howland Reed. In secret, Arthur takes Jaehaerys to Sunspear, where they meet with the Martells. Though Robert now rules the Seven Kingdoms, the Martells have never truly forgiven him for allowing the butchery of Elia and her children to go unpunished. Sir Arthur himself remains wanted for his role in Ned's death, so the Martells keep his presence a secret in these meetings. For this trust, the Sword of Mourning reveals the truth.
I failed your sister, my prince. I failed my oaths. But I swear to you now, I will right this wrong. The usurper and his dogs will answer for what they have done. Dawn remembers, and we will not forget our own. If this boy is who you say he is, then my sister died for that secret. I will not let her death be in vain. I will support you when the time comes.
Jaehaerys leaves Sunspear with more than just the support of Dorne. He leaves with a purpose. He will not only claim his birthright, but he will also avenge the fallen. He will restore the honor of his house, of the Martells, and of Sir Arthur Dayne. Yet, while they remain in secret, the two keep a close eye on the happenings of the world, particularly the remaining Targaryens. They learn of Daenerys and Viserys' escape across the Narrow Sea, and how they traveled from place to place in search of allies to retake the Iron Throne. While Sir Arthur will never support their claim, he understands that they will need to present a united front. They keep a close watch over them until they receive word that Viserys intends to marry Daenerys to Khal Drogo to secure his aid. With this information, the two decide to make their move. By now, Jaehaerys has grown to be a capable young man, and now serves as Sir Arthur's squire, and the two journey across the Narrow Sea to attend this wedding. At the wedding feast, amidst the revelry of the Dothraki, Viserys watches the strange knight and his squire making their way amidst the Dothraki, sharing drinks and meat while talking with them. Alongside them are several women, all dressed simply and concealing their appearance. But a shrewd eye knows their identities, the bastard daughters of Oberyn Martell, meaning they come with Dornish backing. Because of that, Viserys agrees to a private audience with them, where Sir Arthur and Jaehaerys introduce themselves.
At last, my loyal subjects come to bend the knee. Your loyalty shall not be forgotten. Jaehaerys, I shall make you one of my kingsguard. A fine way to reward such fealty.
You misunderstand, my prince. This is an alliance of equals. Should it come to claims, King Jaehaerys' right is stronger than yours.
I am the king. You would do best to remember that after you failed to protect my father and brother. I was proclaimed king by my father.
You were proclaimed on the whims of a madman. Few will honor such a declaration, including myself.
You dare! This is not the time for division, my friends. Westeros will not fall to an army divided. Sir Arthur is correct. There must be an alliance. But make no mistake, it is King Viserys who built this coalition.
Viserys smirks, but privately seethes. The tension lingers in the air, but the first steps of a fragile alliance have been made. Sir Arthur knows that this alliance will not last, and they must strengthen their position as much as possible. Thankfully, it seems like Viserys has a glaring weakness: Although he is allied with the Dothraki, they do not seem to respect him very much. This allows Jaehaerys an opportunity to win them over. The Horse Lords respect strength and martial prowess, two things that Sir Arthur and the young prince have. As the khalasar travels east, they go with them, showing off their swordsmanship and horse riding skills. They never pass up an opportunity to spar or help the khalasar. Drogo takes notice and watches them approvingly. Some of his warriors gravitate towards Jaehaerys, whom they prefer over the Beggar King. Even Daenerys grows fond of her nephew, as he treats her kindly and with respect, something Viserys never did. By the time they reach Vas Dothrak, it is clear which prince they favor. When Viserys does meet his end after threatening Khal Drogo, they waste no time in swapping their alliances with Daenerys instead, but she sees more willing to work with her nephew. Rather than simply getting rid of him, she offers to share power with him. For the moment, it seems like things are well within reach, as Drogo commits himself to this task. But soon after, the call meets his end and puts a halt to any potential invasion plans as his khalasar breaks apart. However, things are not entirely chaotic, as Jaehaerys remains with Daenerys and is an accomplished warrior. He can maintain some semblance of order with Sir Arthur. Several Dothraki rallied around him. Though not a Khal, Daenerys remains a Khaleesi, and under her nephew's leadership, they move to protect her. At the same time, he begins hunting down the traitorous khalasars that form from Drogo's death. While avoiding the bigger ones, he destroys the smaller ones and reabsorbs them into their force. This allows him to maintain a small force of a few thousand raiders, while Daenerys mourns her husband and punishes the woman responsible. But as Jaehaerys returns from one of these victories, he's stunned to see what he returns to. The sight of the dragons sends shivers down Jaehaerys' spine, and, like the others, he gets down on his knee to pledge support for Queen Daenerys. The Dothraki skirmish among themselves, scattered khalasars clashing for dominance in the wake of Drogo's death. Jaehaerys rides at the head of his warriors, his blade cutting through these different hordes and bringing them back to heel. Daenerys stands at the heart of it all, a Khaleesi without a call, yet she remains revered. The dragons by her side serve as a testament to their power. By now they have managed to assemble a force of 10,000 raiders. Viserys said that with an army like that, they would be able to conquer the Seven Kingdoms, and Daenerys is inclined to believe him. It was her brother's one obsession, and he would have long planned for this day. Yet, they would have more than just the Dothraki. Just as Jaehaerys had promised, Dorne would come to their side, and their messengers come with reports of the current events. The situation is ever more intense than usual. Jon Arryn, the Hand of the King, was dead. For 15 years, he had advised the king, being one of his closest confidants alongside the late Ned Stark. With him dead, Jon has no clear successor, as though his brothers are capable, he has little love for them. Instead, he makes a dramatic move and hands the position to Tywin Lannister. While there is no question he is brilliant, Tywin is little loved, and most men either fear or despise him. There is much grumbling about his appointment as Hand. That includes the Dornish and the Vale in the north who have expressed their misgivings. Now more than ever is their best opportunity to strike, as Tywin has not fully solidified control over the Seven Kingdoms. Dorne promises its spears if Daenerys shall marry Prince Quentyn Martell, something she reluctantly agrees to. The wind howls as the first Dothraki warships, taken from slavers or extorted from merchants and repurposed for their needs, sail westward. Ilario Mopontis offers his aid by masking their approach and claims this fleet is heading to the Stepstones. Instead, they make landfall on the shores of the Stormlands. The khalasar move swiftly, their horses thundering onto the beach. There are rocks gleaming in the early morning light. Jaehaerys rides at the forefront, his blade drawn. Sir Arthur Dayne remains by his side, while Daenerys rides just behind them, flanked by her handmaidens and a contingent of her most loyal Dothraki bloodriders. They strike southward, hitting Greenstone first, then riding onto Mistwood. Their horde rides around the Rainwood, driving refugees into the forest while sweeping aside any army foolish enough to get in their way. As they approach the marches, its lord assembles a combined host and prepares to meet them. But as the first clashes take place outside Stonehelm, the Dothraki are halted in their tracks. Instead of half-trained peasants, the militarized marches contain row after row of experienced soldiers. Their spears gleam as they halt the first charge, while longbowmen fire overhead, raining arrows upon the Dothraki and driving them back. Even a ferocious charge by Jaehaerys does not stop them. For a moment, it seems like the battle shall be lost, but then the first Dornishmen arrive, fast-moving raiders who hit the Marcher Lords from the rear, scattering their bowmen and allowing the Dothraki to rally. Oberyn gallops up and down the front lines, killing Lord Bryce and Sir Balon Swan, while Jaehaerys slays Arst and Selmy. The remaining Stormlanders retreat under the command of Lord Beric. With their defeat, the way is open for the combined Dornish and Dothraki army. Smoke curls into the sky as villages burn, their people fleeing before the onslaught. While the Dothraki revel in the slaughter, Jaehaerys keeps his forces in check, ensuring that the destruction is controlled. The goal is conquest, not wanton pillaging. Houses are invited to surrender, and their lands are spared if they do. A few lords do, while others are quickly beaten back. Daenerys is happy to continue this strategy as they advance deeper into the Seven Kingdoms, part of their forces under Sir Arthur consolidating the southern Stormlands and another invading the Reach. They need the Seven Kingdoms to see them as liberators, not invaders. However, even with his commands, he can feel the unease in the air. Jaehaerys recalls the Battle of Stonehelm and how his forces suffered serious losses. Though they were replenished by the arrival of the Dornish, simply recouping their losses won't be enough. He is trained in Westeros and knows what the coming days will bring. The lords will rally, and if they do not have more support soon, they will be overrun.
Robert Baratheon will march, and the lords of Westeros will not stand divided for long. Already there are rumors that Mace Tyrell is gathering his host in Highgarden. Meanwhile, Robert will not remain idle.
The people remember the dragon. They will rise for us. They have waited for our return. That is what Viserys told me.
The dragon has not ruled for some time, and you will be surprised how short some people's memories are. Houses Thorne, Derry, Riker, Connington, and Mooton might rally to our side, but they are minor houses, and their influence greatly diminished. But what of the Tyrells, the Arryns, even the Greyjoys? We must give them a reason to join us. We need a greater house to declare for us, one that will turn the tide.
Dorne has committed itself, but Jaehaerys knows it will not be enough. Their alliance with the Martells has given them legitimacy, but not dominance. The North, the Vale, the Reach. These are the true keys to Westeros.
I may offer myself in marriage. It may win another great house.
Nephew, take it from me, who was sold like a common broodmare. Marriage can be a worse cage than any prison, even for the one you love.
What choice do we have?
There is always a choice. We may not decide who we marry, but we can decide on what terms we do so. If we go now, we will be beggars. But perhaps with a few more victories, we can gain some power.
Robert Baratheon moves swiftly, his banners rippling in the wind as his forces thunder southward. The might of the Stormlands, the Crownlands, and the Riverlands gather under his command, and his fury is undeniable, as he hears reports that Daenerys Targaryen has taken part of their forces to besiege Storm's End itself. The bait is too much for Robert to bear, and he rides out. But unlike his predecessors, he moves cautiously, avoiding potential ambush spots and keeping his army in good order as they march south. When his army clashes with Daenerys and her Dothraki, the outcome is devastating. Her warriors fight fiercely, throwing themselves upon the battle lines with arrow fire and cavalry charges. But this time, the Westerosi hold their nerve and remain in position. Suddenly, it is the Dothraki who find themselves unable to react. There are no gaps in their lines to exploit, no undisciplined units. They simply hold their position until the arrows are exhausted, and then the longbowmen counterattack with a hail of arrows that batters their lines and leaves them vulnerable. Thousands die, and Daenerys is forced to break off their siege and return to the marches. Yet, even as Robert revels his victory, a new threat rises in the north. Jaehaerys sails north with a select force, slipping past the royal fleet and landing at Crackclaw Point. He rallies the hardy warriors of the region, calling upon their ancient loyalty to the dragon. The clans of Crackclaw, long overlooked and fiercely independent, answer his call, eager to strike against the might of the Iron Throne. With his new forces, Jaehaerys moves swiftly. With Robert taking most of his men south, King's Landing is poorly defended. But as he rides there, he considers his possibilities of an alliance. House Arryn is out of the question. Robert Arryn is a child, and Lysa Tully is too old to be a viable match. The Westerlands are not an option. Jaehaerys would never align himself with the man who orchestrated the deaths of Elia and her children. That leaves only the North and the Reach. House Stark holds great power, and a union with them would grant Jaehaerys the strength of the North. He recalls his mother and wonders if they will rally to him because of that.
The Starks are loyal, but they do not choose their alliances lightly. Let them see what kind of ruler you will be.
Jaehaerys nods, weighing his options. That leaves the Reach, the fertile, wealthy heart of Westeros. If he can win them to his side, his claim will be unshakable. Yet they will not join him unless he gives them a reason to. That is why he arrives right at the gates of King's Landing. Though the city looks imposing, Sir Arthur has a plan. He infiltrates the city that night and heads to the Goldcloaks barracks. Some officers are still loyal to the Targaryens. All it takes is the promise of a Targaryen ruler and one of the gate commanders throwing open the doors, allowing Jaehaerys' forces to flood the streets. After a swift and decisive assault, King's Landing falls. The Red Keep soon falls after, as his armies are stiffened by the Goldcloaks and storm the walls. Queen Cersei's children are swiftly captured, while Cersei herself is guarded by Jaime Lannister.
You should have fled, Kingslayer. Although I will say, I regret what must happen next.
You were always the best of us. Let's see if that still holds. With a blur of motion, Jaime lunges. Arthur parries with effortless grace, stepping aside and redirecting the blow. Jaime presses, a whirlwind of powerful strikes, but Arthur meets each with precise counters, forcing Jaime back.
You've grown stronger, but strength alone is not enough.
Jaime feints left and slashes right, but Arthur anticipates it, twisting his blade around Jaime's and knocking him off balance. Jaime staggers, barely dodging a riposte aimed at his throat. Gritting his teeth, he swings again. Desperate, Arthur weaves through the attacks, disarming Jaime with a flick of his wrist. The Kingslayer stumbles, panting, sweat dripping from his brow. Arthur levels his sword to his throat.
It's over.
Jaime clenches his jaw, hatred burning in his eyes. But he knows the truth. He lost. He lets his sword drop to the ground with a clatter. With this stunning victory, Jaehaerys turns to House Tyrell. Mace Tyrell, ever ambitious, sees the tide shifting and agrees to throw his support behind the Targaryen cause. In exchange for this alliance, Jaehaerys consents to a marriage, sealing the Reach's loyalty. With King's Landing secure and the Reach at his back, Jaehaerys gathers his forces and turns westward. The Westerlands, the seat of Tywin Lannister's power, is next. His army marches toward the next great battle of the war. The banners of House Tully flutter in the wind as Mace Tyrell's army assembles on the fields outside Golden Grove. Randall Tarley commands the vanguard, his disciplined infantry forming tight ranks. Opposing them, the Lannister forces stretch across the valley. Oberyn Martell rides alongside Tarley, his spear spinning in his grip. They both agree to go on the offensive to prevent Tywin from fortifying his hold. The horns sound, and the Reachmen charge. Ranks of pikemen advance, followed closely by heavy cavalry. The Dornish riders sweep from the flanks, their horses nimble, lances striking into Lannister lines to break up their formations. Tywin's forces hold at first, the famed discipline of the Westerlands keeping them from breaking. Bowmen fire back at the Dornishmen and prevent them from forming up as the Tyrell's cavalry are beaten back. But the Tyrell infantry surge forward, battering the center. Oberyn rides straight through the chaos, hunting the Lannister commanders, his spear a blur of deadly precision. Several lords fall to his spear, adding to the chaos. When the Reachmen pull back, the Lannister center is in chaos, as they have become a chicken without a head. When the next charge comes, it shatters their lines as they break. From there, the Dornish cavalry strikes once more, taking both halves of the army as it crumbles apart. Tywin is captured and brought before the leaders, who plan on sending him to Queen Daenerys. Robert Baratheon leads his army through the Stormlands, doubling back the way he came. His mood is triumphant. He had crushed Daenerys' forces, and now he marches to reclaim King's Landing. Then, the storm arrives. Out of the thick forests of the Kingswood, Jaehaerys Targaryen and his loyal knights strike like a shadow. The banners of House Targaryen rise in the distance, sending a chill through Robert's ranks. The first wave of cavalry smashes into Robert's supply train. Though Sir Barristan beats them back, they lose much of their supplies and chaos erupts. A second attack is beaten back with more success, but the churning mud from their charge and the rain slows their momentum, turning it into a melee.
Hold the line!
He rides back to assist his troops, but Jaehaerys is relentless, and as they dart around, striking at his men, Robert cannot pin him down. He does not succeed in driving back the attack. This continues for the next few days as Jaehaerys wages a guerrilla war rather than risking his army into battle. This slowly whittles their forces and slows Robert's advance into a crawl until Daenerys arrives. Her Dothraki screamers and their bloodied araks glinting in the sunlight. Despite her earlier defeat, she has gathered her remaining strength. The Dothraki surge forward, their horses kicking up dust. The Baratheon men brace themselves, shields locking together. The two forces collide in a storm of steel and fury. Robert's presence raises their morale as he prevents his men from advancing without orders or retreating. He holds off against several charges until gaps begin to form in his line. Jaehaerys fights his way through the chaos, cutting down knights and bannermen. Robert sees him and charges, warhammer raised. But the battle is already lost for Robert. The Baratheon lines buckle, and men begin to flee. Jaehaerys, faster and fresher, disarms Robert, sending his warhammer crashing into the mud.
Enough. It's over. Yield, my king.
Robert, chest heaving, looks around. His army is broken. His men are dead or fleeing. Tywin Lannister is nowhere to be found. Although Daenerys wishes to have Robert executed, Jaehaerys recalls Arthur's stories about the Mad King. It is little wonder why Robert rebelled, and he surprises them by treating him fairly. Instead of having him executed, he allows Robert to return to Storm's End, though Stannis will now be its ruler. Robert may never hold lands, but he shall be allowed to live. The king initially plans on rejecting this and telling them to take his head, but as he looks closer at Jaehaerys, he sees something familiar within him, a hint of Lyanna. Suddenly tired, Robert bows his head and accepts it. Tywin is not so lucky, as both rulers agree to have him executed. The banners of House Targaryen fly high as Jaehaerys and his retinue ride into Winterfell. The Riverlands and the Vale have bent the knee, leaving only the north. Catelyn Stark stands on the steps of the Great Hall alongside Robb Stark, young but already a leader of men.
You come as a king or as a conqueror?
I have come to make peace.
Catelyn studies him, then glances at Sir Arthur Dayne standing behind him. There is a flicker of something in her expression. Recognition. Those eyes of his are gray. Stark eyes, lined by violet. She frowns and recalls that meeting so far back with Arthur Dayne when he returned Ned's bones. The baby.
And now you return to Winterfell, seeking to claim a throne here as well.
No. I seek only to unite Westeros. The war is over. I want the North as an ally, not as an enemy.
You say you want peace, but the North has a war to fight. The Lord Commander of the Night's Watch was slain not 2 months past, some say by the dead itself. I had asked for aid to deal with this, but it seems Robert shall no longer answer my call.
Jaehaerys listens carefully. He had heard whispers of strange things beyond the wall, but war in the south had consumed his attention. Now the weight of Robb's words settles over him.
If you truly wish for peace,
help us. Send men to reinforce the wall. Stand with us against the coming storm. Do this, and the North will kneel.
Then that is what I shall do.
When Jaehaerys arrives at Castle Black, he finds the Night's Watch in disarray. The Black Brothers are leaderless. Their defenses are weakened. Knights of the Reach, Dornish spearmen, and hardened warriors from the Stormlands to hold the wall. But then, the storm arrives. A cold wind howls through the haunted forest. The air turns frigid, the sky darkening as if the sun itself retreats from what comes. A horn blows, once, twice, and then a third time. From the trees, they emerge. A tide of pale, icy figures marches through the snow, blue eyes burning with unnatural light. The White Walkers ride among them, their swords glistening with frost. The dead swarm toward the wall, and the battle begins. While the wall should hold them back, the death of Lord Commander Mormont and so many of their leaders weakens the Night's Watch. The bonds of the wall only hold so long as the Night's Watch remains, but now there is barely an order. Steel meets ice. Men cry out in fear, and Jaehaerys draws his sword, cutting down whites as they come. The battle is chaos. Soldiers fight desperately as the dead overwhelm them. Then, atop a rise, a figure emerges, taller than the rest, clad in armor of ice. The Night King. For the first time in his war for the throne, Jaehaerys feels true fear. The wind howls like a dying beast as thousands of whites pour through the breaches in the wall, slaughtering everything in their path. Only desperate heroics had prevented them from being overrun completely, but it was clear to all, the wall would not hold much longer. Sir Arthur is a big part of this, cutting through the whites left and right. His movements remain as graceful as ever, sliding through their ranks and cutting through whites left and right. Jaehaerys sends ravens south. The message is clear. Come north. The real war is here. It is weeks before the banners appear on the horizon. In those weeks, the Night's Watch are reduced to a few dozen men. Though Robb arrives with reinforcements, riding hard and scraping every soldier up he can find, they can only do so much with the wall's massive size. Soon enough, the whites manage to gain foothold on the wall, leaving them fighting for every inch of the base to try and push them back. Then, the undead beasts join them and add to the chaos. But after weeks of fighting, Daenerys rides at the head of the host. Dothraki and Dornishmen come rushing in, flanked by legions of Crownlanders and Riverlords who have sworn their swords to her cause. Above them, 3 great shadows glide through the sky. The dragons have grown. Jaehaerys feels his heart stir at the sight of them. When he left, the dragons were large, but now they are truly massive, each one capable of bearing a rider. But with that size comes the fire that burns through the top of the wall. Areas on the verge of falling suddenly gain a second wind. They do not exchange words. There is no need. Tonight, they end this war. The dead sweep across the field like a black tide, whites in the tens of thousands, moving with unnatural speed. Among them ride the White Walkers, pale and deathless, their blades of ice gleaming in the moonlight. At the rear of their horde, atop a pale horse, sits the Night King. Robert Baratheon leads the charge against them as he rushes through the ruined gate, his warhammer crushing the dead with every swing. Jaime Lannister fights beside him, his sword flashing in the moonlight as he carves through whites. Oberyn Martell dances through the carnage, his spear striking faster than the eye can follow. Randall Tarley joins them alongside Sir Barristan. All the heroes they had defeated or convinced to join them now ride by their side. Jaehaerys and Daenerys take to the skies. Their dragons scream as they dive, torrents of dragon fire igniting the battlefield. Whites are reduced to ash in an instant, their shrieks lost in the roar of the flames. In Daenerys' hands is a wrapped bundle, which she hands to her nephew, a gift from Ashara. When he unwraps it, his eyes widen at the silvery blade in his hands, a blade used only by the greatest knights. Dawn. The Night King raises his hand. A terrible chill sweeps through the battlefield. The dead rise once more, but Jaehaerys is ready. He and Rhaegal plunge from the sky, dragon fire streaming from the beast's jaw. Daenerys and Drogon follow, their flames merging into a hellstorm of light and death. Still, the Night King does not fall. Instead, he lifts his icy spear and hurls it with terrifying force. Rhaegal twists in the air, narrowly avoiding the strike. But below, Drogon roars in pain as the spear grazes his wing. Daenerys struggles to keep him aloft. Jaehaerys knows they have only one chance. He drives low, sword in hand, guiding Rhaegal through the storm. The Night King turns, drawing his frost blade. A hammer crashes into his chest. Robert Baratheon, battered and bloody, bellows in fury as he strikes again, forcing the Night King back. Jaime and Oberyn are there in an instant, their blades flashing. Jaehaerys leaps from Rhaegal's back, landing hard on the frost-covered ground. He grips his sword tight. The Night King moves fast. Too fast for a man in armor. But Jaehaerys is faster. His blade sings through the air. The Night King raises his sword. And then, from above, Drogon lets out one final earth-shattering roar. Daenerys commands him forward, and in a single devastating breath, the great beast unleashes a torrent of dragonfire. The flames engulf the Night King. For a moment, he stands defiant, unmoved. Then, his armor cracks. Jaehaerys rushes in, drives his sword through that opening, and runs him through. The Night King can only glance down as his body collapses into nothingness, and the long night ends before it begins. With this defeat, the two Targaryens now begin organizing their rule. They come to an agreement. Daenerys shall become queen, with Jaehaerys as her heir, as she cannot have children of her own. That's our theory. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.